What can I say? Woo! We hit 100,000. Now we got to go for 200,000 and actually 2 million. Because actually, what's 3%? I think what's 3% of 8.4 billion? That's what we're shooting for. So thank you very much before we get started today for all of you out there that helped us reach this milestone. I appreciate it so much. Thank you. Well, the whole team appreciates it. So, all right. Well, we've got to have this conversation because it's not about theory anymore. It's about shock waves. And I know more than likely everybody is familiar with what's happening in Venezuela because overnight the global chessboard shifted. A U.S. strike on Venezuela and the capture of Nicolás Maduro and his wife, suddenly a country long written off as a failed state is back at the center of global attention. And quite honestly, the consequences will go very far beyond its borders. Now, this is not about a judgment one way or the other. I am staying politically neutral, but this will have impact. We probably won't, for the next number of years, see the full impact of this. But moments like this, they only happen locally and then they ripple through many markets, and Venezuela so heavily in the energy markets, the currencies, the alliances, and the investor confidence. This is all impacted worldwide. And they force an really uncomfortable question. What actually happens to the world economy when not just a regime fails, but have we shifted from a rule of law to a rule of might? Because over this weekend, the U.S. executed, it was incredible what they did, a lightning-fast military operation in Caracas. Explosions lit up the night sky. And by the way, tomorrow you're going to hear an interview with our friend Javier, who is in Panama, but he is Venezuelan. His mom and his friends still live there. And so it was great that he came in and had this conversation with us today, because this isn't just another geopolitical headline and then we ignore it. This is a removal of the sitting head of state, something the world has rarely seen in modern slides. But we are going to start with what's happening in the spot markets, because in reaction, the stock markets are up, the spot gold and the spot silver markets are also up. I really didn't have time to do a whole lot because I wanted to capture where we were in this. But that's what's happening in the spot markets. And before I came on, we were up, I think, another $40 on spot gold, and I think another $7 or $8 on spot silver. So we'll see, because remember, this only pushes us technically further away from that 200-day moving average. And I know I'm being a pain in the neck and very redundant about it. It's just, if you understand what could happen, if it does happen, you don't lose sight of what is in reality actually happening. So the prices can stay up here, which is what's been happening, and allowing that 200-day moving average to work off that overbought, not overvalued, overbought circumstances. But let's move on with what's really going on and impacting these prices. Because quite honestly, the U.S. attacked Venezuela, captures them, and now they are standing trial in New York. Now, frankly, President Trump didn't mince any words. In his press conference, he said that the U.S. would run Venezuela temporarily, and now that's been walked back. But you can see that he is actually not working with the opposition party, but the vice president under Maduro, so that same party remains in power. It's really interesting because he even warned Venezuela's interim leader that if she didn't do what's right, she would pay a very big price. And so it looks like she's negotiating. This looks awfully familiar to things that have happened in the past if we are actually going to try and run Venezuela. I don't know what's going to happen yet. We're going to see, quite honestly. But safe and proper and judicious transition, let's hope that it is a safe and proper and a judicious transition, and more things don't happen after that. Because the last time we went in and did the same kind of thing, that was Iraq, which 2003 to 2011 and frankly beyond, and that was a complete regime change. And then additionally, we've got to ask Panama. That happened in Panama not that long ago. So let's just stick to what's happening in Venezuela right now, because we don't know what the ultimate outcome is going to be. But it does prompt questions from Congress, because quite honestly, Congress was not informed prior to that. So there is a legal question, and we're going to see. I mean, they can't undo anything that's happened that I can see, but we'll find out. And again, listen to that interview tomorrow, because Javier is an attorney, and he's an international attorney. So he knows much more about this, frankly, than I did, or than I do. But interesting to watch history unfold, because it makes a whole lot of sense that we're having a monetary regime shift, but isn't it much bigger than that? We are having a transfer of power, and even the way things are taken over. We could not be living in a more interesting time, and it could certainly tell you why you need to have physical gold and silver in your possession, because the world, frankly, is shocked and still in shock. And we're seeing from, some countries and some people think that it was great. Some people are calling for condemnation. And frankly, across the world, leaders, they responded with a mixed shock, condemnation, and strategic silence, waiting to see what's really happening. Countries like Colombia expressed deep concern and called for the UN to convene on that. And what? We've seen President Trump say, Colombia, you're one of the next ones, although it looks like Greenland might even be next, and let alone Iran. Russia and Iran condemned the action outright, but of course they are allies to Venezuela. So international organizations emphasize respect for international law. So it'll be interesting to see when there is this pushback and we go to court over it, what will prevail. Though I don't know how they could undo, what would they put Nicolás Maduro back in power again? I don't think so. We're just going to have to watch this unfold, because let's take a look at the allies that have actually condemned the actions. And of course, you need to be aware of this. Cuba, Colombia, Brazil, Russia, Iran, China. Not a surprise. These are the allies. So we're looking at a rather, bifurcated world in this. But even the United Nations leadership warned that it sets a very dangerous precedence. And that's really what I'm looking at too. What is that precedence? This is not a small list. It really signals a global divide that, frankly, are going to shape markets and alliances. We're going to see in the long term, but even in the weeks ahead. From the president, from President of Brazil, Lula, well, he definitely condemned this. That's right next door to Venezuela. But the bombings on Venezuelan territory and the capture of its president cross an unacceptable line. These acts represent a most serious affront to Venezuela's sovereignty, and yet another extremely dangerous precedent for the entire international community. Attacking countries in flagrant violation of international law is the first step toward a world of violence, chaos, and instability, where the law of the strongest prevails over multilateralism. The condemnation of the use of force is consistent with the position that Brazil has always adopted in recent situations in other countries and regions. The action recalls the worst moments of interference in the politics of Latin America and the Caribbean and threatens the preservation of the region as a zone of peace. The international community, through the United Nations, needs to respond vigorously to this episode. Brazil condemns these actions and remains available to promote the path of dialogue and cooperation. And so really, it's that precedence that has now been crossed an unacceptable line. This is not obviously how the U.S. is spinning it. The U.S. is not spinning this as a military action, but rather a police action since Maduro was indicted. But extremely dangerous. Yes. Can you just go in? Can any country just go in? And if they don't want the current sitting president, just take them out? And has it now shifted to the law of the strongest versus a world of law? These are some of the unprecedented things that could come out of this. And it's a little scary because inside Venezuela, well, it's really got a mixed reaction. There are people that really hated Maduro and are quite happy that he's gone, and other people that are allies of Maduro that are not happy that he's gone. But it's not over yet. This isn't even over by any level. We have to wait and see what happens. So will there be reprisal? Who's actually in charge? What does the U.S. think it's going to do? Are they going to run Venezuela? Now, look, Rubio has walked that back. So I guess we're not going to run it, but we're going to see, because certainly we have a big say and impact in what's happening there now. And not only that, the mood on the street is really mixed, and they don't know what to think, but it's pretty dangerous to be fully vocal there and say your opinion. And in the meantime, I thought that we should take a look, and I did this on Friday so you can just see it a little bit, where the U.S. dollar to the Venezuelan bolivar, what was that, up 8? I'm sorry, I'm having trouble seeing. It's too small for me. Can you see what that is? What does that say? 18.27% or 19.21. Thank you. 19.21. Usually, I write them out and then I can see them, but I didn't do that this time. This is spot silver against it, and that's up. And this is just what is this? A 1 year? 1 year? That's up 48.5%, and spot gold is up 22.98%. So you can see that no matter where you are in the world at the moment, spot silver is outperforming spot gold. And you can see it even in the flight to safety. So now this is where I kind of picked up what was going on it today. But the markets, they're kind of going ho-hum. This could also be a natural resource grab, because Venezuela is the largest holder of oil and also very resource rich. They have a lot of gold. They have also a lot of rare earth, which we know is one of the issues that the U.S. needs, rare earth, since China is really controlling that a lot more. So this is what's happening. It's shocking. It shocked everybody, including me, but this is not over yet. I think the interview that I did with Javier this morning is definitely worth listening to, because it's boots on the ground. He's been in touch with his family and his friends there, and we're just going to stay completely neutral and see how this rolls out. But I think the thing that bothers me the most personally is this now, are we shifting to a rule of might and no longer a rule of law? That's probably the piece that disturbs me the most, because if the U.S. can use it, why can't China use it? Why can't Russia use it? Why can't, who is to say that this doesn't become the norm? And why you better make sure that you are as independent and self-sufficient as possible, because frankly, anything can happen. So you want to have physical gold and silver in your possession. And we still, again, I'm telling you, this is our opportunity to get sound money back in the system again. And until next we meet, please be safe out there. Bye-bye and Happy New Year.